Hi, everyone. This is Lynn Crawford with Hope Dementia Support, and I am honored to have Melanie Goff here from the Goff team of Keller Williams talking to us tonight about the challenges of downsizing when your loved one has dementia. So, welcome, Melanie, and please tell us a little bit about yourself. And before we start, I'll ask everybody if you have questions, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll make sure that they get answered before the evening is over. So, Melanie, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Lynn. I am thrilled to be here. I teach a senior seminar. I specialize in senior relocation, people downsizing or moving to safe and more comfortable homes. I've come to be known as the no stairs lady because I started doing this when I tried to come up with a plan because I kept getting phone calls that somebody had fallen in their home and they'd gone to the hospital and patched them up, and now they were in rehabilitation, and the doctor was saying they couldn't go home, and the family was rushing in and trying to sell the house. And I just thought about what it might be like if people had more of a plan and had prepared ahead of time, hopefully to prevent the injury, but also to have a plan if something like this were to happen. And then I've been working with Hope Dementia as a volunteer, and occasionally a facilitator just covering for someone in those support groups. I love what they're doing. My mother has dementia. We're actually moving her into a memory care home tomorrow. So I've been through a lot of things associated with with that terrible disease. And so hope is near and dear to my heart, and I love talking to people at that organization. So I've modified my presentation that I do just to seniors in general. And towards the end, especially of this presentation, I'm going to talk a lot more about what it means to be downsizing or moving or relocating with somebody who has dementia and what that can mean for them and the person, their loved one who's helping them move. So I'm going to share my screen and get over to my presentation here. Hopefully our technology will all work. Let's see here. Let me move that out of the way. Okay. Let's see. Can somebody tell me if they can see this? Is it up and running?
It's up and running. It
Great. Thank you so much. So
looks
much.
good.
Okay. So we're going to talk about downsizing. We're going to talk about downsizing with a loved one that has dementia. But the first part's going to be sort of more general information about downsizing, and then we'll get to more of the specifics. So if you're here, you're in the right place. If it's time to downsize or move a family member with dementia, if you're worried about yourself or a loved one not being safe in their current home, if you're wondering how to create a plan for the downsizing process, we'll talk a lot about being proactive. So if any of the answers here are yes, you are in the right place. That is what we're talking about today. We're going to cover perspective and how to view things or how you may view things. Being proactive versus reactive, we're going to talk a lot about. When I was talking earlier about people all of the sudden having to swoop in an emergency situation and sell a house because their parent or grandparent couldn't come home and they needed the funds to move them someplace else. There's a lot of chaos and reactive things happening there, a lot of decisions being made for the person as opposed to them having made them ahead of time. So we're going to talk a lot about being proactive versus reactive. And that comes very much into play when you're working with a loved one who has dementia also. Some common disillusions, some conversations you'll want to have with a family member or trusted friend or loved one. Senior living options. Where do you go if your house is no longer safe or comfortable? When should you move? What legal documents do you need in place? I'll touch briefly on that. Physical and emotional challenges. reducing stress, downsizing tips, decluttering, and preparing to move. And let's see here, how to make a smooth transition. So I'm going to move this out of my way. I love this cartoon. One day, son, all this will be yours. This person wasn't very proactive. I have seen homes like this. Um, it's usually not a huge challenge for the person who's moving. It's usually a huge challenge to the friend or family member who's left behind. So I would encourage people to be a little more proactive and not do this to the people you care about. It's also not a safe environment if you're living in your home or adapting your home to be safe, but I think it's kind of funny too. So I run into people that view the world in three different ways, three perspectives. And I call it past, present, and future. So there's people who live in the past. Um, they never their minds, either because they have dementia or because this is where they were most happiest, tend to be living in the past. There are people who live moment to moment in the present, and they don't really think about the past or the future. They just live in the moment. And then there's people who live for the future. And I would really encourage you to mix the three of these, to have wonderful memories from the past, to be aware and involved in the present, and to plan for the future. So, beyond kind of where you are, past, present, future, there's also two choices in the type of person you want to be. Do you want to be proactive or reactive? And I would say that if you're here, you're being proactive. You're trying to gather information. You're trying to talk to somebody and ask questions about what it looks like to downsize. So reactive people, um, like I said, they live in the past and they don't want to accept the inevitable, which is that amazingly enough, we get old. That does not mean that we need to be unhappy, uncomfortable, or miserable in any way, right? So, but there are certain things that happen as we get older. Reactive people don't make decisions and they kind of let life happen to them. They end up in emergency mode as they react to an issue that arises all of a sudden. Um, and there's a chaos and an energy around that that's not always positive. Unfortunately, a lot of times when that happens, loved ones or family or friends have to make difficult decisions quickly, often for that person. They're not even making their own decisions. And it does create a lot of undue stress for themselves and the ones that they love. Opposite of that are proactive people. And I love these pictures, right? Oh, the man who's so sad and the other people who are riding their bikes and waving. It's not that extreme, right? So proactive people, though, they do accept the fact that we aren't getting any younger. Okay. They realize that they will likely need some level of care in the future. They plan ahead so that the future is smooth or as smooth as possible. They act on their plan before an emergency arises. That's why they call me the no stairs lady, because I meet with seniors and I say, we need to get you someplace without stairs because so many accidents with seniors, with people with dementia or not, happen around stairs. The statistics are staggering there as far as injuries in homes for seniors. Um, so we want to make a plan and act on it before an emergency. Proactive people age gracefully with minimal family stress. They protect their loved ones from the stress of caring for them, and they allow their loved ones to live their desired lives. That's not always true because sometimes, it's often true, but sometimes loved ones choose to care for someone, and that brings them great joy. So that's okay. I'm completely okay with that if that's what they choose. Some common disillusions are that I'm okay and I won't need help. That is not usually true. I'm going to live in my home forever. The most common thing I hear from seniors is they're going to take me out of here in a box. Well, um, although many people say that, a very small percentage of people actually do live until they die in their home. Usually they have to go someplace else at the end. So you can have that disillusion, but statistically it's highly unlikely. So you need a different plan. I'll be in the same health condition until the end. I'm just going to go along as healthy as I am, and one day I'm just going to keel over, and that will be it. That is not realistic, usually. My kids will take care of me. My spouse will take care of me. I don't have enough money to move. I'll be okay at home, and I don't need help. So these are some of the things I hear, some of the disillusions. All of these things can be addressed. I said I'd talk about conversations around your current and future health that you need to have with your family, or friend or trusted advisor. Um, the conversations around current and future health that have to do with your physical health. Okay, so what happens if? What do I desire if? What kind of care do I want? What happens if I can't walk anymore? Can we have a discussion about that and what that looks like? Is my current home going to work if I have to be in a wheelchair or use a walker or some other device to help me get around? Um, how about our cognitive and mental health? Hope obviously helps a lot of caregivers um, with helping people who have cognitive and mental health issues, dementia, and such as Alzheimer's. Um, and what if we told our loved ones, if I get dementia, here's what I want to happen. Here's what I want that to look like. And we're really willing to open up and have a discussion about that and not be so fearful that we were afraid to have the conversation. And then all of a sudden it happens. And guess what? Other people are making decisions for us because we never shared what we wanted. How about our emotional and social health? What does that look like? We're going to talk a little bit about different types of living environments and how important socialization, having friends and family, and a support network around us is for our long-term health and how long we live even. What about our financial health? What does that look like? And who are we talking to about that? Who knows about it? Who understands that we have certain kinds of insurances? Maybe we have long-term care insurance. Maybe we don't. Maybe we have a savings account. Maybe we don't. What's the financial plan? Do we understand what a HECM loan is? Do we understand what it costs to live in assisted living? Do we, what are those financial questions that we need to be talking about right now? And then our familial health, right? Um, that can go a lot of different directions. It can be somebody that we need to have a conversation with before it gets too late, before we're no longer able to have a conversation with that person. Does our family all understand what we want, what our plan is? So those are conversations that we need to be having with our family, friend, trusted advisor, somebody, or a group of people. How do we know when it's time to move? Sometimes these are certain things. Obviously, today, when we're talking about moving with someone with dementia, sometimes we need to move for our health, right? Sometimes we need to move our loved one who has dementia because we can no longer take care of them. We don't have the physical strength, we don't have the mental strength, or we don't have the training. It's not that we don't love them, it's that we're not able to do that anymore for whatever reason. And there are a lot of reasons. Beyond that, maybe our house is just too big and the kids are gone and we don't need 5 bedrooms and a huge fenced yard anymore. Maybe our home has a big yard and we don't want to do yard work anymore. I don't want to mow the lawn anymore. It's too much to maintain. Maybe we're tired of cooking and cleaning. And of course, my big thing that I try to push and get people safe to a safer place is that it has too many stairs. Those stairs in that picture are absolutely terrifying. They don't even have a railing. They're just really scary. Um, and then, are you living alone? Okay. Are you lonely? Do you want friends? Do you want people around you? Do you want to have conversations besides the TV and YouTube? Um, and are you concerned about security? Right? So security can come in different ways. It could mean maybe I don't feel safe in my neighborhood anymore, or maybe I don't feel safe living by myself. And if I were to collapse, nobody would know. So different kinds of security. So again, talking about being proactive versus reactive and knowing when it's time to move. Would you like to make your own decisions about when and where your next move will be? Or would you like somebody to make that decision for you? Um, so proactive versus reactive. There's a lot of options, right? So there's just moving to a different house, maybe a single level versus one with stairs, maybe a townhouse or condo where they take care of the yard, or there is no yard. Um, Maybe you move in with family and you ask them to care for you. Maybe you age in place at home and bring in care. Maybe you move to a retirement community that could be independent living, assisted living, or memory care. Or you transition from one to the next. We'll talk about each one of these for a minute. So, moving to a different home, a more comfortable, safe home that better fits your needs. Um, I have I've had lots of conversations with seniors over the last several years. One gal called me and she said, I need to move. I don't feel safe in my home. I'm afraid something will happen and no one will know. So I went and met with her and we talked about what that would look like. And we kind of created a plan. Her daughter, who lived in the Midwest somewhere, said, Mom, you can't sell the house. Um, that's my inheritance, right? So she talked her mom out of selling. About 3 months later, her mom fell, collapsed, um, broke her back, right, when she fell. And she was unconscious on the floor. She lived by herself. She gained conscious just long enough to push the emergency button. She had one of those emergency buttons around her neck on a lanyard. So luckily, and then she was unconscious again. Luckily, the paramedics did find her. They did get her to the hospital. But I just wonder in those sorts of situations, if she had moved to a safer living environment when she first talked to me, when she first felt in her heart it was time to move, if she would have lived a longer, um, healthier life, if she wouldn't have had that terrible injury. And this is the kind of phone calls I get all the time. And usually those phone calls do not come from the homeowner. Usually those phone calls come from a family member or friend whose hair's on fire trying to make all these decisions for this person. So um, being proactive and making a move like this before you're in danger or when you first start feeling uncomfortable. I noticed the other day, I'm walking down my stairs. I have um, glasses that when I look down, they blur at the bottom when I'm going downstairs. So I can't really see the edge of my stairs. And I hold on to the railing and I'm familiar with my stairs. But I'm thinking, I mean, I don't consider myself a senior yet, but I'm not super comfortable with these stairs anymore, with these progressive lenses that I've got. So when you first start to feel uncomfortable, that's when you start need to make sure this plan gets put together and put into action. So one option is to move to a home that's more comfortable and safe and better fits your needs. Um, maybe it has a better use of space. I've talked to so many people who live in a 2-story or a 3-story house that haven't seen the attic area or the basement area of their home in years. They just live on the main level. There's all this space that they're not even using. Um, Maybe it is a environment that oops, hold on one second. Well, let me go backwards. Maybe it is a place that has less stress with more manageable living environment, like a smaller yard, not so much to care for, or no yard at all. Some people move in with families. So during COVID and after, since then, this has become a really popular option for people. They're combining families. They're doing multi-generational living. Wonderful for the people that do that. They move in together in the same house, or they put in a dwelling unit in the backyard or someplace like that, and they live close to each other on the same property, and they care for each other, and the grandparents are a part of their children and grandchildren's lives, and the children and grandchildren are there if the grandparents need them. So that's a great option too, as long as everybody's in agreement and everybody likes each other. Hopefully they do. Another option is aging in place. So this may involve retrofitting a home. I highly advise that if house has stairs, that this is not the option. Sometimes temporarily somebody can put in a stair chair that electronically moves you up and down the stairs. This isn't very convenient, and it's not always safe, and it does damage to the house to install it and uninstall it when you want to sell. But sometimes it's a temporary fix and it works okay. But retrofitting the home, bringing in somebody like design doctors to put in a walk-in or roll-in shower, put in grab bars, basically retrofit the home so that it can be used by you or your loved one as long as possible. Then you bring in home care. That could, in the beginning, that might be cleaning and cooking. It might be just somebody to come sit with your loved one who has dementia while you go to the grocery store, or just take a much needed break. Home health services, we'll talk about the difference between just general home care and home health services in a minute. And then there's also adult day services. Adult day services are great places where you can drop off your loved one who has dementia and take a break for the day, or go to your own doctor's appointment, or do whatever you need to do. CDM provides this, so it's a great opportunity to be able to have a little bit of time not caring for your loved one that you usually care for. So home care, when I'm just talking about general home care, this is the type of thing you can pay someone to do. There are also services that are free based on your income and ability to pay, that will come in and help with these types of things. They're usually a private company. They can provide companion services, just someone to be with you or your loved one and chat. Or my mom, my mom with dementia has, she loves to have somebody read to her. And she always wants the same book. It's the second Harry Potter book. And it doesn't matter where the person picks up and reads it. They can just open it to any page and start reading. And my mom is thrilled, right? So companion services are important. Personal care, like bathing, dressing, eating, continence, transferring, toileting, you can pay somebody to help with that. Limited healthcare, right? So they can check their blood pressure and temperature, manage their medicine, that sort of thing. Help make meals and clean up meals, light housekeeping, walking and moving, getting people in and out of wheelchairs, taking them for a walk, um, and then transporting and escort services like shopping, errands, picking up prescriptions for people, taking them to a doctor's appointment. This is home care, and you can pay people to come into your home if you want to stay in your home and help with that. When you get into home health care, it's slightly different. Okay, this is usually involves a skilled nurse. And it is required if you have any kind of intrusion into your body, like a feeding tube, an IV, a tracheotomy, IV, wound care. A regular in-home care person is not going to do those things. You would require a registered nurse for that. A lot of people say, well, Medicare will just take care of me in my home. And to some degree, they can. It's complicated, as all government kind of systems can be. And it has certain requirements, right? So a physician's prescription, for example, there's only so many days a year per specific health event. It has to be done by a licensed agency. So it can't be, oh, well, my daughter could come care for them for a while. In this case, if you want the Medicare reimbursement, I believe you'd have to have a licensed agency. I would say check with your insurance provider and your Medicare provider to verify all this, and that can be part of your plan, having a really clear understanding of what kind of in-home health care would be available to you. So there's different kinds of, so we've talked about moving in with family, retrofitting your current home. There's also moving to some form of senior or retirement community. And those would be an independent living, assisted living, or memory care. And a lot of times there's no entry fees, there's no long-term commitment. They're month to month oftentimes. And many of them you can kind of age through from independent living, and they have in the same building assisted living, and they have in the same building or adjacent building memory care. Not all of them, but some of them do. We'll talk about each one of these. And then adult family homes are another option for a kind of a retirement community, but a smaller community. Usually they have, 6 or 8 or 10 people who live there. It's a home, usually that's been retrofitted to work with seniors. They do have ones that specialize in memory care, so your loved ones with dementia sometimes do well at these if you don't want that bigger environment. So I love this picture of these three ladies because it kind of gets to the heart of a community. And I've been doing a lot of reading on loneliness in seniors and how that can really shorten their lives. Um, this includes people with dementia, if they have nobody around them versus having some sort of social network around them. But it's really for everybody that's getting older. You live longer if you have a community around you, if you have friends or family or both. Um, so retirement communities have certain things in place that can maybe help us live a little longer. For example, 3 meals a day that are prepared and served. People with dementia often forget to eat, or they're not eating as healthy, or they're not eating the things they should eat. So maybe having more options and more nutritional options could help. Even just seniors in general sometimes forget to eat. They don't get as hungry. 24-hour security, making sure somebody's got an eye on you. I love the general maintenance and repairs. If anything's wrong, you just call and they come fix it. You don't have to do that. They usually cover utilities. And then activities and fitness, again, giving us maybe more to lengthen our life, right? So we've got people around us. Maybe we're going to go to movie night, or maybe we're going to play pickleball, or maybe we're going to all visit in the library and play board games. Whatever it is, that socialization, keeping our brains working, keeping our bodies moving. Retirement communities are great for that. So let's get back to making sure we have a plan and just talking about some of the paperwork we need to work our way through. This can be done with an attorney. If you feel brave and like you have the energy, you can go online and get templates for these things, but they're very important to have. A will. And when was it last updated? I pulled my will out the other day, and my will was last updated right before my daughter was born. So my two sons had been born, my daughter hadn't. She's not even mentioned in it. My attorney said that's all right. She kind of falls in the thing, but still I'm like, wow, she's now a sophomore in college, and maybe I need to update my will. It's about time. So pull out the will, dust it off. If you don't have one, write it, get it written, and be very specific so that you don't cause any distress or contention within your family. Make sure it's specific. A trust. Get advice from a trust attorney regarding whether it would be better to have your home and or any other valuable items in a trust. Many times I hear that they are advised that that is the best way to go. It eliminates the idea of probate after you pass. It helps your estate move quicker. So a trust might be a really great idea. A durable power of attorney. This is vital, and it's vital for you to choose who it is, somebody that you very much trust, because this person is going to have a lot of control. But when you can no longer make decisions, they are able to step in, whoever your trusted person is, family, friend, attorney, whoever it is, and make decisions for you. Figure out who you want that to be now while you're being proactive. Hopefully, if you have a loved one who has dementia and you're their primary caregiver, you have a durable power of attorney for them. The options, if you don't, are time consuming, and an attorney can help you jump through those hoops, but it's not nearly as easy. So if you have the opportunity, get that done first. An advance directive. I know Julie at Hope knows a lot about advance directives. The people who take care of you medically should understand your advance directive. What are your desires? When do you want them to stop feeding you if you can no longer eat? When do you want them to let you go if you're no longer functioning? Make those decisions for yourself now so your loved ones don't have to make them for you later. It also asks the durable or the advanced directives in Washington are very detailed. You could put things in there like, do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried? Where do you want to be buried? What are your religious requirements, or what would you like to have happen? So I would say make those decisions now. Um, have a conversation when you make these decisions. Have a conversation with the people that matter most. Obviously, family, friends, and your trusted advisor. Those are key, but also your medical doctor. Make sure that your medical doctor, the hospital that you would be taken to if necessary, have copies of your advance directive. They understand your wishes. Make a list of who you should meet with. It's going to be whoever, if you don't have one already, who do you want to be your power of attorney? Ask them if they want that responsibility before you just give it to them. Do they want to be in charge? If you're not going to do a trust, who's going to be the executor of your estate, or the person responsible for your estate? Ask somebody if they want that job. If you just thrust it on them and they say, I can't do this, then the courts will just assign somebody. So have that conversation. So there are a lot of physical and emotional challenges with leaving a long-term home. For somebody with dementia, there's even more. So these are the general ones that anyone would feel, particularly seniors, um, and then also people with dementia. So items and spaces have memories attached. Okay, so sometimes we rush into a senior's home and we rush them through the move, and we don't really take stock of the fact that there's a lot of memory here and they need time. Seniors may have limited energy. If you're the senior, give yourself time. You're not going to be able to rush this process. Hopefully, you're being proactive so it's not an emergency and you have some time. I once had a client, she was an artist, and she had some boxes in storage, and she had art supplies, and her house wasn't overly full, but she just had a lot of memories. And she took about a month. She didn't want help. She wanted to go through each box herself and decide, am I keeping this? Am I giving it away? Am I throwing it away? Am I donating it? And after about a month, a little bit of time every day with the energy she had. She called and said, "Okay, I'm ready. I've got everything sorted." And so seniors might not have enough energy to just do this in a weekend. Um, boxes and paper can be dangerous. So this is really important. Your loved ones who have dementia or your loved ones who are just seniors in general, if you've got boxes and paper and bubble wrap and stuff piled up all over the place, you're moving to keep somebody safer and more comfortable. And now you've got a situation where they could easily fall and break a leg just walking across the living room. So make sure that you keep the moving process organized and tidy, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. There's anxiety in moving to an unfamiliar place. This is heightened if you have dementia, obviously. We'll talk a little bit how to alleviate that in a second. There's sadness, right? Maybe this is the house where you raised your children, or maybe this is the house where wonderful memories were made. And so there's some sadness in leaving it. Feeling rushed is never a good feeling. Feeling that someone else is taking control of your life is never a good feeling. If you're helping someone move, please converse with them, ask questions. Um, don't take control. Sometimes I'll walk into a situation, a senior is completely mentally sound, but their children are doing all the talking for them. And I'll say, just a moment. And I'll try to direct my questions to the senior because it's their home, it's their world. They're the ones that need to be making the decision. They're the ones on title for the home. Um, don't don't take over unless it's needed in an emergency. There's the challenge of losing track of important items. We're going to talk about paperwork in a second too, but even other important items. Um, keep Try to keep track of the things that are most important by labeling, setting them aside in a very specific place, maybe even taking them to another place during the moving process, and then deciding what to do with items and letting them go. And there's processes for being able to do that. So if somebody has dementia, all that I just talked about, we're going to add um, 10 times to someone with dementia, that anxiety, that discomfort, that confusion, right? So here's some ideas for reducing that stress. Um, I suggest that if possible, you remove the person with dementia from the home during the packing process. If it's possible for a trusted friend or relative to be with that person, either for a few days somewhere else or to pick them up and take them and bring them back in the morning and evening, is there a place that they can go during the packing process? Um, what what can we do to remove them from that paper-filled, box-filled, crazy confusion of a moving day, even on the best of days? I say schedule a photo shoot ahead of time. This is, they call it a memory photo shoot. There's photographers that specialize in it. They take photos of important people, items, memories, places in the home even, um, and they put it all into an album for that person to be able to hold on to and revisit, even if they can't revisit it in the home. If possible, if you're moving your person with dementia to assisted living or memory care, move them first and then move yourself or the other family member. Don't have them be part of that total move at all. Just take them and the things that are most important to them, which hopefully we've had that conversation before they've gotten to a place where they can't have that conversation. But even if not, their loved ones usually have an idea of what those sorts of things might be. Move them, get them settled with their most important items and their most important memories, and then move everybody else. Um, I said have conversations early in the process to help determine what would be really important for you to take to your next home. Some examples that I've had would be a family quilt or some sort of soft textile that's very familiar, that smells the same, that feels the same to them. Photo albums or that memory photo shoot album. Um, my mom loves her electronic photo album photo book that automatically switches pictures throughout. She also loves her videos of music concerts, right? So books, her Harry Potter book, that she takes with her. So those sorts of things, what brings them comfort? What helps them remember? What's important to keep their memory as alive as possible for as long as possible? When you're moving as a senior or as somebody with dementia, um, there's sort of an order of events that works best. And that is to move the person and their items to the new place and leave everything else in the house for now. Right. So hopefully it's been kind of decluttered and, maybe tidied a bit, but we're going to move either ourselves or our grandparent or whoever. We're going to move them to where they're going, in with a family member, to assisted living, to memory care, whatever it is, get them all settled. If we're doing it in two stages, we're moving someone to memory care and someone to a different home, let's get both people moved. And then whatever is left, you can do one of two things. You can have a family discussion and say, okay, family or certain friends or certain people, go into the home and take what you want that's left, right? Um, and that can be supervised by the person who's selling or not. Um, and so they'll take what they want. And to be totally honest, usually family members, there's not a lot that they want. Um, Everybody thinks that our kids are going to want all our stuff. But as we saw in that first cartoon, if you saw the look on the son's face, not really. They don't really want our stuff. You know, the the beautiful antique furniture, the beautiful handmade crocheted things, all that. We just have to get really real about the fact that our kids don't want it. But oftentimes our loved ones, our children, grandchildren, there's a little something that's important to them. And it could be, one item of jewelry, it could be a picture, it could be a little something that was on the shelf when they were a child, when they were sick and they remember it, so a lot of people will have family or friends go into the home and take something or some things that are important to them. Then what typically happens to the rest of the stuff, or a good sort of series of events, is they do an estate sale or some kind of sale. What I will tell you is that you will not make a lot of money at an estate sale, but it will make all the stuff go away. And it will go away someplace other than the dump, which is good. So if you have a family member who's willing to go in and sell all your items one at a time on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or Craigslist, great. Most people do not have that. Most people just want it cleared out so they can sell the house. They have an estate sale company come in, they take a huge chunk of money off the top, they write you a check with whatever's left, and then as long as you check the correct box on the contract, they take everything that wasn't sold out also and empty the house. So what you're left with is a clean, empty house. You have all the stuff you want. Your family or friends have all the stuff they want, and you get a check for the remaining items. That's usually not a huge check, but it's something. And you know that your items have gone to some place where someone wants them, not just thrown away. Um, and then you have professional cleaners come in and they do a deep clean on the home. I always suggest windows and carpets get cleaned. It makes the house smell better and look better. Um, and then bring in photography and get your house sold. So that's order of events. Some ideas for that kind of preparation, downsizing. And when you're living with somebody who has dementia, I love the 10-minute sweep, because oftentimes taking care of somebody with dementia is a full-time job, and you oftentimes don't have a half a day or a weekend to do something. but usually we can find 10 minutes, right? So the 10-minute sweep comes from Matt Paxton's book, Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff. This is a fabulous book, and I would highly recommend, if you have time to read, that you read that book, Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff. He talks about the 10-minute sweep, and what he says is, if you have 10 minutes every day to clean and organize a small space, one drawer, one side of a dresser, one little piece of your house gets cleaned, organized, and decluttered every day for 10 minutes, you will find that over not very long, suddenly you have whole rooms that are clean, organized, and decluttered. Um, I always say start in the bathroom. There's fewer emotions there, right? So you can open a bathroom drawer and throw out all the expired medications and the in an appropriate way, hopefully, and old yucky toothbrushes and half-used bars of soap. And bathrooms are great places to start. Another great place to start, and I think I say this later on, yeah, is um, a guest room, right? A guest room is usually already, if you have one, pretty clean, right? It's all set up for a guest. There's not a lot of stuff in there. So you go in there to declutter, organize, and get rid of stuff in there. And a lot of times it's just, there's maybe some stuff in the drawers or the closet or under the bed, but generally it's pretty clean. That room can be done really quickly. You shut the door. It's a great feeling. Ah, great. One room down in the bathroom, one drawer down in the bathroom, right? Um, little bit at a time. So that 10-minute sweep rule. Um, set up decluttering rules, right? So I call the 2020 rule. I think Paxton might also talk about this. Getting rid of anything that would take less than 20 minutes and less than $20 to replace. So you're in the bathroom, you're organizing, you have a half-used bottle of Pepto-Bismol. It would cost less than $20 to replace and less than 20 minutes to replace. If needed, in the garbage it goes, right? So less than 20 minutes and less than $20, and it's a maybe. You don't really know if you'll need it. You don't really know if you love it. It doesn't bring you joy. Away it goes, right? To the trash, give away, donate into one of those piles. Focus on one space or room at a time. So if you're doing the 10-minute sweep, do the 10-minute sweep in one room until that room is done. Every day, 10 more minutes in that room until it's done. When you're thinking about what furniture you're going to take to a smaller home, I have a lot of people who move from 2,000 or more square feet to 400 and some square feet in an assisted living or independent living or memory care apartment or room. Um, when you're thinking about what you can bring, remember when you're laying it out on your little grid paper or with your tape measure to leave 36 to 45 inches between things where you need to get through, so that if someday you need a walker or a wheelchair, or if you already have one or your loved one does, that it's easy to move through. Don't think, well, I could bring the sofa and the love seat and the chair and the lamp table and all this, and if I put those little pieces of paper on my grid, they all fit. Well, they might all fit, but you have to leave space. You have to be able to easily get through so you don't end up with tripping hazards and so forth. Senior Move Manager is really good at helping you figure that out. We'll talk about them in a second. Decluttering 101, you're going to sort it into 4 piles. You're going to sell it. You're going to offer it as a donation to family, your church, friends, another charity. You're going to keep it and take it with you, or you're going to throw it away. Those are really the only options. So everything you need to decide which one. They call it sort, sell, offer, retain, or trash. And as you're doing your 10-minute sweep, just have 4 boxes. Everything goes into one of the 4. When the box is full, it goes to wherever it's supposed to. The trash, the charity, boxed up and labeled into the garage because you're taking it with you, or you take it out and you sell it. Oh, wait, there's one other thing on here. So again, pick the room that's the easiest and the least cluttered to start with. Paperwork. Yes, I was going to talk about paperwork. your paperwork in your file cabinets, in your boxes in the closet, and so forth. You probably have a lot of it. Most people do. Don't get bogged down in that right now. Label it and take it with you. You can take all the time in the world in your new place to go through those boxes, go through the files. If you could easily disregard stuff, okay. But you're going to have a lot of stuff that needs to be shredded or sorted in a way. You'll probably end up with not very much stuff in the end. You can probably throw it or throw a lot away or shred a lot of it. But if you start with that, you'll never be ready to move. It's a very long process, but it's easy to do in your new place. Just put them in the closet, take out one box at a time through it as you feel like you have the energy to do that. And then I say in the end, to make your house feel really good, try getting it to a place where you have no more than 3 things on any surface. That's a great goal. If you're thinking about selling your home, to add value, you declutter, you depersonalize. By depersonalize, I mean in my grandmother's house, um, she had going up the stairs, all of the grandchildren from kindergarten through 12th grade, right? All their school pictures going up in frames. So it was covered with tons of pictures. Wonderful memories, seeing the kids grow up, all of those. Um, those pictures need to be taken off the wall if you're going to sell a house. And you can do different things with them. You can digitize them. So now you have a digital picture book of them. You can have somebody scan them and put them into a physical picture book. You can bubble wrap them and take them with you and decide to do what to do with them later. You can give them back to the children. You can say, I've got all of your school pictures. Here you go. Sometimes children love to have them. So different things, depersonalize. If you have a lot of religious iconography, if you have things that are very personal to you, um, obviously anything that's nude art, right? Those sorts of things that you love, but they're maybe not the best. I say get your house to a very neutral place where people can picture their items, their art, their things in the house. We're going to do a deep clean before we put it on the market, usually including windows and carpets. Simple updates like window coverings, pillows and bedding, those kinds of fresh, clean things can add a little personality and color to a home. Throw pillows. Paint is an inexpensive way to update if it's needed. Obvious repairs, including having somebody, probably not you, but somebody, check your attic and crawl space for water and mold. Things that are really obvious. When I meet with somebody, we do a walk around and I look for obvious things that might need repair before going on the market. And then yard cleanup, pruning, fresh plantings can bring some color again to the property. In this market, currently, our market is level to slightly sinking. We have more inventory than we've had in a long time. So it really is a beauty contest and a price war. We want to be priced absolutely correctly, and the house needs to look good. Doesn't mean it needs to be perfect. And that's only important if top dollar is the most important thing. Sometimes selling it quickly, again, if we haven't been proactive and now it's an emergency, sometimes the most important thing is just to get it sold. I get that. I'm talking a lot about things to do to get top dollar, but that's not always the most important thing. Sometimes it's the least hassle or the quickest. Um, Using a senior move manager, I mentioned a senior move manager. Senior move managers are great at planning, scheduling, details of the move, getting that graph paper and making sure that the furniture you want to bring is going to fit and that there's space to move within it. Helping you downsize and declutter, decide what you'll want and need to take, helping you remove all your personal items from the property, creating a floor plan of your new home, scheduling and overseeing packing, moving, unpacking. It's really important for people with dementia. and seniors in general at the other end to have everything unpacked and where it goes before they get in. Again, to eliminate trips and falls over boxes and paper and bubble wrap and all that stuff. Um, they can help get your new home set up, and then they just kind of remove that transition stress because they kind of are the hand holder of the whole process through. So senior move managers can be a great investment um, when you are making one of these kinds of moves. If you have someone in your life that you're moving with who has dementia, a senior move manager can really be an integral part of organizing all those pieces so you can be with your person that you're caring for, or can help you figure out how can I get them moved first or find a place for them to go during this process. So senior move managers are great. There are a lot of, we are so lucky here. My family, my parents live in a small town in Alaska. They do not have what we have here. And you people here are so blessed to have hope, dementia support. Um, and hope is, it really is a true support for dementia. You need something, you have a question, you need a resource. I just feel like they know everything. They're amazing. CDM, they do a lot of things, including that adult day services that we were talking about. There are placement agencies. There are placement agencies that will help you find your next place to go, and they don't even charge, right? So you just say, this is what I'm looking for. I want an independent living situation. Here's the features I want. I need somebody available, a place that's available at this time, and here's my budget. They're going to sit down with you and really determine what's important to you in your next home. If you're moving to a retirement community or a senior community, what's really important to you about your loved one with dementia? If you're moving them into memory care or assisted living, what do you want for them? What do they want for themselves, if they can still help you understand that? A placement agency can really be valuable. Senior move manager, we talked about. Your trust attorney, any kind of senior services attorney. I know Joshua Pops has been on here doing what I'm doing, talking more about trusts and money and all of those things that go into wills. Um, you really need advice from a CPA or a financial advisor a lot of times. Um, a senior real estate specialist like me can be very helpful. Movers, packers, estate sale representatives. A lot of times, senior real estate specialists like me have lists of these different kinds of people that other clients have really liked. So, Hope has a great resource list. I have a great resource list. You should never feel like you don't know who can help you. Just give us a call. Smooth transition. Know where you or your family members are going. So that's the first plan. You've got to know that. Discuss with the people that matter to you most what's going on. Pace yourself. Give yourself the time you need and your loved one the time they need. Decide what will happen to important items that can't be taken to your next home. Talk to your family, talk to your friends. Are we donating it to a charity that's important to us? What are we doing with it? Um, I had a client, and I've told this story before. It was an emergency situation. The children, adult children, um, grandma had gone into the hospital. The doctor said she couldn't come home. They swooped in, they moved her and grandpa into assisted living. They never came back home. They weren't part of the move. They didn't have a plan. Um, and when I met with them, because they were still completely mentally capable of signing a contract and talking to me about selling their house, Grandma kept saying, "What happened to my organ?" She was a church organist, and her children didn't really have that conversation with her because they were in emergency mode. So they never really talked to her about what was going to happen with her organ. She was used to playing the organ every day and practicing and playing at church. Um, if you have important items in your home that can't be taken with you, there was no place for her organ in her new home. Um, First of all, are you picking the right place? Is there something that you need to find a place where your item will fit? Or do you just need to, it's time to let that item go? And so those kinds of decisions need to be talked to with family ahead of time. Surround yourself with a team of skilled advisors and helpers, including the CPA, the financial advisor, the attorney trust attorney, elder care attorney, medical professionals, insurance specialists, your realtor, senior location specialist, um, people like Hope, who sort of know everything. I think they're very helpful. Um, and then make sure that someone, for a smooth transition, you have someone to unpack you at the other end and set up your home. Okay, whether you're moving into a single level home, you're moving into a retirement community, you're moving in with family, I don't care where you're moving, someone else, if you're a senior, especially if you're caring with someone with dementia and they're coming with you, somebody else needs to get you unpacked and set up. Whether you need to pay someone or someone's going to volunteer to do that, don't put that responsibility on you. That is too hard. Um, you can be there and you can advise them on where things need to go, but make sure someone else is doing that physical moving of things. So I meet with people. I love to meet with people early in the process when they're first creating their plan, um, and just talk through the process, help them set specific goals, get them in touch with people who can help them, um, talk about what their options are, what it looks like, what their home looks like now. Um, in kind of just a strategy session. I don't charge for that. I love just doing that and helping people prep. It's part of my giving back and helping people call me before something terrible happens and they're injured or become ill. And I love doing that. So if you would like a strategy session just with you, just to talk about goals and what kind of help you need, please feel free to call me. My phone number is there. That's my cell number. If I don't answer, I promise to call you back. And that's my email address. And that is my presentation. I don't know. Does anyone have any questions?
Now's your opportunity to be asking questions of a real estate expert. So,
It was just
and while you might be thinking, I will remind you all that the slides will be available, I believe. Is that not correct, Melanie? Will I be able to send the slides out?
absolutely. Yes.
Okay, thank
I'll
you
have
very
Emily
much.
send that to you.
Perfect, thank you. And then the other thing for people to know is that in October, our community education will actually be Dr. Randall Wolcher from OHSU. He's a neuropathologist who does all of those brain autopsies and has so much of information to offer us, which will be very helpful. And questions. So ideally, when should people really start looking at their stuff?
Mm. So ideally, people should really start looking at their stuff if they think that they're going to need to move in the next 5 years, right? So, and the reason I say that is because have you, when we clean our house for the holidays and we put everything away and we get rid of a bunch of stuff and we decorate and it's such a great feeling. It's clean and decluttered. So about 5 years before you start to move, start decluttering, getting rid of things, and making a plan for what's important for you to keep with you, having conversations with the people around you. And you will find that as you start that 10-minute sweep or you start decluttering one room at a time, a little at a time. I have a YouTube channel, by the way, and I talk about this subject. Um, you will um, you will find that your home starts feeling better, more comfortable, the less stuff it has in it. And you can hire people to help with this. There are great experts who will come into your home and help you declutter. Or you can just do it yourself and take your time. So I would say if you were like, the kids are all in college, I think I'm going to want, this is me, right? I think I'm going to want to move in the next 5 years and go someplace that doesn't have stairs and doesn't have as big a yard. Um, when you're start, or maybe, my loved one was just diagnosed with dementia, creating our plan together for the future, there's another great time because now you're like, okay, within the next 5 years, we might need to move someplace safer and more comfortable. Um, so now that is very idealistic, right? So most people don't even think about things like that 5 years ahead of time. So I love it if somebody calls me and starts creating that plan and working with me like 1 year before. If they call me 1 year before, we can usually make that a very comfortable transition. So I don't know if that answered the question. Oh,
No, I absolutely.
yeah.
Also, I have a comment here. It says, "Thank you so much, Melanie. I'll be reviewing the slides frequently as we are moving next month."
Great.
So
Awesome.
how's that for timely?
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Hopefully you're moving someplace comfortable and safe and amazing.
So, another question. What things should we be asking each other about planning? And what do we want? And what we want or what we should consider?
Right. So asking each other, do you mean asking your spouse or partner where you both live together?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, so I think that you need to be asking each other all the questions. I would go back through these slides because I talked about talking to your loved ones about different things, right? So asking when you sit down and do your advanced directives, that's a great conversation, right? End of life questions. What do my husband and I right now are in the process of saying, depending on where you are, what do we want the next stage of our life to look like? What is our dream, our hope, our plan? If we were to say the next 10 years of our life would look like this, what would that be? What does that feel like? What does it look like? Where is it located? Who's around us? That's a great conversation to have. Another great conversation to have, especially if you live in a marriage or partnership where one person does all one thing, like handles all the finances, and one person does another thing, like, goes to work every day, and or takes care of the house or whatever. So duties are divided. It is really, really important that you start to begin to understand what the other person does. Especially if one person is in charge of the household, the finances, even things like the pets, right? The other person needs to start understanding about that. Like, how often do you take the dog to the vet, and what's going on with all of that? Where's the paperwork kept? More importantly, are really things like finances. If one person pays the bills every month, has all the login information, all the passwords, um, it's time to start documenting that and sharing it with your partner so that even if you just have a short hospitalization, you're in the hospital for a week, do they know what to do if bills need to get paid during that time? So if you divide duties, it's time to start understanding the duties of the other person. That's a great conversation. Um, the conversation about if our house is no longer comfortable or safe, what do we envision our next house looking like? What does that look like? Um, and again, I'm going to share these slides, so please go back through them because we did talk through what some of those questions should be, and some of those decisions. But those are a few.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Another question. We're moving into a very small apartment in October and plan to keep our old home for 3 months to slowly go through and figure out what to keep, sell, or toss. Is 3 months long enough, or should we keep the old house longer?
It depends how much stuff you have, right? So 3 months should be plenty. Um, like I said, I remember my gal who had a pretty full house. Well, not overly full. She wasn't, like a hoarder or anything, but just a regular, probably 2,000 square foot house with, every room furnished and boxes of stuff. Um, she went through her house in about a month. um, but that was she was living there. She was there every day, and this was her job every day, as energy allowed. If you're just going to the house, but you've got other stuff that you're doing during the day and other things that are happening, it might take you 3 months. I think 3 months should be fine, unless you really have a situation where you have a lot of stuff, and then it might take you a little bit more.
So what about decluttering, even if you don't have a move planned?
Yeah. Decluttering is amazing. It will make you feel amazing. Um, Even if you don't have a move planned, um, there's there's processes for decluttering. Again, like starting with one room, the least cluttered room, getting it all done so it feels really good, it smells really good, it's dusted, it's perfect. You shut the door, you're like, whew, that one's done, that feels so good. And you slowly work yourself to the most cluttered room, um, which is oftentimes people's kitchen or living room or den. Offices are usually very cluttered. Um, save those for last. Um, but working on that, even if you don't have a plan to move, even if you're just trying to make your current home more safe and comfortable, clutter is dangerous. You've got stuff stacked on the floor around, it's a tripping hazard. It is dangerous. And it's time to get rid of all the stuff. You will feel really good afterwards. Was that the
So,
question? And I didn't quite
yeah,
understand the question.
no, I think that was really helpful. Um, Judy says, thank you. I'll be moving my brother into memory care this weekend. He has a lot of clutter and is moving to a smaller studio apartment. Getting him out while we're moving the necessary things was exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah. Move him
So
first. Move him and the things he wants and the things that make him most comfortable and the things that help his memory be as strong as possible for as long as possible. You move that first, get it unpacked, move him into it, get him settled, and then deal with the house.
perfect.
Mhm.
Let's see. My husband and I have told our children that we would listen to their concerns for us and be open to talking about them as we age.
That's perfect. Absolutely. If you have children that you love and trust and they love and trust you, keeping that conversation open for as long as possible is wonderful. One of the conversations you need to have with your children or your spouse or your loved one or whoever is going to help you make decisions is, if I get dementia and you know it, but I don't, X, what do you want to happen? Right? Um, this is a really important conversation to have in that open communication. Um, because a lot of times people with dementia don't know that they're losing their memory. So if you can tell them how you want them to respond to that and act around that and what decisions and how you want those decisions made. Let's say I get diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but I don't know I'm losing my memory. Here's what I want you to do. And that's kind of a hard conversation. There's a lot of hard conversations that need to be had. It's good to have a death day party, right? And where everybody sits around and says what their desires are, what they want to happen at the end of their life and after they die. And everybody shares very openly with no fear or no judgment or no any of that. And somebody writes it all down so somebody can remember what everybody wants. I think it's important to do those things and have those really hard conversations before the event, before you lose your memory. Not all of us will, of course, and most, many of us will live long, happy lives with our memories intact. So we don't have to fear that, but it can happen. And if, many people in this group it has happened to. So, um, what would happen if we have that conversation with our loved one or loved ones beforehand?
I love the concept of a death day party. It can
I
it
do.
can it can solve so many issues ahead of time.
Yep. I flew up to Alaska, and my brothers and my parents and I, when my mom still had some memory, we had a death day party and we did advance directives, and we talked about what we wanted, and it was very surprising, right? My parents, what they wanted at the end of their life and what they wanted to have happen to their bodies and all of that. Was very surprising to me. It's not what I would have guessed. So
Wow,
it's important to have those conversations.
it totally is. So, last question. What is some feedback that you've received from clients who have downsized or started the process? Have some felt a sense of regret, all of the above,
I didn't hear the first word. What did you say before regret?
a relief?
Relief. Um, okay. So the emotions I talked a little bit about earlier in the presentation, um, sometimes people are absolutely elated and thrilled to be rid of the stuff and to have some freedom to just go do other things. Um, Sometimes people are very sad, right? So I'm actually helping some folks move right now where one of the spouses is very sad and one of them is elated. So it's not always the same, even in the same family. Um, Regret, not usually regret. Regret is not one I usually hear. Sometimes there is sadness because they feel that they're leaving so many memories and they're getting rid of so many important things to them. Getting rid of, for this person, getting rid of their um, fly fishing gear, moving into assisted living was very hard, right? Um, so it really does vary. For some people, it offers this like elation and freedom where they're no longer tied or bound to their stuff. And then for some people, they're very sad about releasing their stuff. Um, and then some people are sad because one person's going maybe to memory care and the other person somewhere else. So sometimes there's loss that's felt. So there's a lot of emotion associated with moving, and it really is individual to the person.
Okay, thank you. This one just came up. She says, I'm not sure that my husband knows that he has dementia. So, how would you recommend proceeding with the move?
It's very complicated. Well, first of all, I would make sure that you have a durable power of attorney, right? You have to be able, in order to sell a house with somebody who is not capable of signing a contract, you have to have a power of attorney if that person is on title. So the first thing you have to do is to get all your paperwork lined up. Um, the second thing is it varies how involved they will be or want to be. If they're in the early stages of dementia, they can very much be involved. They can make decisions about what to bring, what to take. I would say I've had the best luck with spouses or partners and me staying very upbeat about the move, very positive and excited about the move. Um, because my experience, and Lynn may have some input on this as well, my experience has been that the people that I'm working with who have dementia tend to reflect my emotion back, or their spouse's emotion back. If their spouse is really nervous or sad or frustrated, they kind of reflect that back. And so we tend to get very excited about the move. Um, And if they're in the early stages, they're going to want to be, and there's not a great way to separate them from the decision making, especially if they don't know that they have dementia or they don't understand that they have dementia. Sometimes, as a realtor, if there is a power of attorney involved with the other spouse, um, then and they're the decision maker, I'm primarily working with them. But of course, I'm not going to just disregard the other person. We may, in the end, disregard what they say, especially if it changes from moment to moment. But I try to incorporate their desires into what's happening. It is very difficult early on if they don't know, if what they want is very much in conflict with what you want. So again, every situation is different. If they're early in their process, they probably are going to have to agree to the move, um, in some form, because you're not going to drag them kicking and screaming out of the house. So I don't know, Lynn, do you have any feedback on that too?
Well, as you know, I do a group called Shared Journey for people who have dementia. And what I can tell you that people who have mild or moderate cognitive decline are pretty able to have conversations with.
Yes, that's been my experience too.
Yeah, and I think that they deserve to participate in the discussion.
Absolutely.
You know, the possibility is likely that they may not be realistic, and eventually what's going to happen is going to happen, and it may be contrary to what they had wished, but often you'd be surprised at how reasonable and able to have that conversation they are.
Right. Yeah, especially if they've acknowledged their decline. It gets a little more complicated if they don't. Um, and then it's just a matter of taking it in baby steps. I'm working with a couple right now where the husband has dementia, but hasn't acknowledged it or accepted that. Um, so she wants to move into an ADU on her kid's property. He doesn't want to do that. So what we've decided to do is get their house sold, move them temporarily into the ADU on the property, and allow him and her to have that discussion further, looking in the area around where the children live. Um, but and then also to get a feel for what it's like to live in the ADU on the property. So we were able to come to an agreement, which will probably ultimately end with them living in the ADU on the property where she has help to care for him. So, and to care for her because she's quite elderly also. Um, but again, it's baby steps. We're not going to sell their house and then try and move them immediately, try and find a house that would work for them somewhere else. We're going to go to this place in the middle, which is where she thinks they might end up, but give him the opportunity to say, okay, I like this, I don't like this. Can we please move from here? So it might be just one step at a time. My house is, honey, our house is really not safe for us anymore. It has stairs. Or I really feel like we need to move someplace where somebody can help us take care. Um, and usually, like Lynn said, very reasonable and they're in agreement. So, yeah. Did that help?
If we're lucky.
Yeah, if we're lucky. Yeah.
Melanie, thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Thank you.
I know that I've had so many people having this very discussion that this is very timely,
Yeah,
and we so appreciate you doing this for us.
you are very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a good evening.